The Constitution of India, Preamble. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this Constitution.
With rainbow of wishes, let me welcome you back to this session. Dear children, there will be no rainbow without a sunshine and a rain. So is the life, isn't it? Life is a mixture of happiness and sadness. So, dear children, handle it very carefully. Be aware that you don't give any room for negative thoughts to shelter up in your mind during this pandemic time. Stay strong and fit so that you can develop an attitude to stay positive always during your lifetime, and you can mold up yourself to be the wonderful, beautiful citizens of this universe. Is it not possible? Yes. If not you, then who? And I am so proud of you children that you have taken up all the challenges right now that comes on your way with a broad smile. Isn't it? Yes, that is what we are getting trained up with. Dear children, shall I move on to the lesson? The new block that we have started up in the previous class. It is words and deeds. And in that unit we have seen what Albert Einstein has written about Gandhiji. Now let us spare our good time to see the world-renowned personalities who have taken up Mahatma Gandhi as their role model and what is their opinion about Gandhiji. Are you ready to see? Yes. Onto the screen. Yes, you have seen to it. Nearly 20 personalities who have admired and adorned Gandhiji to be their role model, who have accepted his principles like non-violence, satyagraha, all to be their own life principles, and who have showed up themselves to be the leader of their own community. Yes. So now let us see what our first Prime Minister of Free India has written about Gandhi. Are you interested? Are you curious to know? Of course, we are. Who is our first Prime Minister of Free India? Yes, you said it right. It is Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. We all call him Chachaji, isn't it? Yes. And his birthday is celebrated as Children's Day on November 14th. And we all know he was one among the leaders of the freedom movement of India. In Indian freedom struggle, he was one among the person who took up the leadership to fight for the Indians to break up the chains of the colonial rule of Britishers. Okay, so let us see what he has written about Gandhi. And this is a small excerpt taken from The Discovery of India, a book written by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, when he was imprisoned during the years from 1942 to 1945. He had the habit of writing when he was in prison. And this is the book that analyzes the philosophy of Indian culture, tradition and heritage. This book is an assessment of Gandhiji's influence in freedom struggle of India. What changes he brought out in the fighting mode or in the freedom movement struggle. The psychological change that he brought was admired. See, at the end of the World War I, you know World War when it was started and when it ended, I think it is 1914. It started and it extended for 4 years. And you can see the pictures of Indian soldiers who took up an efficient role in the World War. Okay, so at the end of the World War I, India was struggling to make out its existence. It was utterly in poverty. They had no access to land or work or money or power, nothing. They were totally disappointed by the treatment that Britishers executed towards Indians. So at that time, there came in a blooming sun whose vibrant energy was taken up as a leadership for the freedom movement of India. So actually it is said that Winston Churchill, Winston Churchill has once dismissed Mahatma Gandhi, telling that he is a half-naked fakir. Such a person was finally admired by the Britishers for his personality, for his humility, for his strong leadership qualities, his courage. He said, strength doesn't exist in the physical appearance, it is a strength of your mind, your willpower. Okay, so let us see what Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru has written about the Gandhiji's arrival to the freedom movement of India. And then Gandhi came. And when Gandhi came, we will see to it. So before that, we will see to a small clippings of our friends' art. How is it? Is it beautiful? Is it nice? So let us learn to appreciate our friends. So give a good clap for them. Okay? Yes. So appreciation is also good at times, isn't it? Not at times, always. Try to learn to appreciate others. Okay? Yes. Okay, shall we begin? We'll begin from the introduction. Okay. Jawaharlal Nehru writes about the timely arrival of Gandhiji to Indian politics, when the country was in dire need of such a leadership. So, dire need, terrible need. Okay, badly they were in need of a leadership to coordinate the whole lot of Indians who are known for its unity in diversity. So, people who speak n number of languages should be coordinated and under one leader. Is it not difficult? We know the difficulty in leading a small classroom, isn't it? So, badly they were in need of a good leader. Gandhiji was like a beam of light that removed the darkness. So, beam of light. So, who was like a beam of light? Gandhiji was like a beam of light that removed the darkness. Jawaharlal Nehru makes a right assessment of Gandhiji in his discovery of India. Read the excerpt. Okay. So, assessment and appraisal. Okay. Yes. And then Gandhi came. World War I ended at last, and the peace, instead of bringing us relief and progress, brought us repressive legislation and martial law in Punjab. So, actually, what is the intention of war? It is to end up peacefully. Falsehood should be defeated and truth should be triumphant, isn't it? But it did not happen then. Okay, World War I ended at last, and the peace, instead of bringing us relief and progress, brought us repressive legislation and martial law in the Punjab. Martial law rules were imposed to imprison military officers of those areas. Okay, it was enforced. We were not given enough freedom to have our own government. A bitter sense of humiliation and a passionate anger filled our people. So, we fight for our country, and if we are not given freedom to breathe free air, to roam about freely in our own place, in our own country, so actually it is a sort of humiliation. Humiliation, it is an injury to self-respect. Okay, and people felt so, and that created a strong passionate anger in them. We had become a derelict nation. Derelict nation, neglected, destroyed, okay, abandoned, forsaken. Nobody was there to take care of our country. It was purely under the hands of Britishers who came for trade, finally started ruling over us. Yet, what could we do? How to change this vicious process, vicious, cruel process, aggressive? See, imagine a situation when your neighbors come and overrule you in your own house. Will you be able to tolerate that? It's not possible, okay. So, same thing, you directly connected to your country. Somebody else, foreigners, they come and they overrule us and they give us rules and regulations on how to live in our own country. We seem to be helpless in the grip of some all-powerful monster, terrifying creature. It was like a monster. Our limbs were paralyzed. We were not able to move accordingly about with our own thoughts and actions were not being able to be executed. Okay, and our minds were dead end. So when you are under pressure and force and slavery, you will not have an ability to think creative. You have a mindset only to become free, isn't it? So your good energy will be in trouble. Our limbs were paralyzed, our minds dead end. Large numbers of people cut off from the land and incapable of any kind of manual or technical work joined the swelling army of the unemployed and helpless, hopeless, sank even deeper into the morass. Morass, dead. Where there is no progress, progress becomes very difficult. So people after this war, they lost their land. They did not get any source of income. They did not get any job. So everywhere unemployment was hiking up. So what happened? All these people finally they joined the army. They did not know where to look, for neither the old nor the new offered them any hope. So they were in a very disturbed condition, troubled situation. Very hopeless they were. They did not know what to do next. They did not know where to look. Where should we go for the first moment to bring a change? And for neither the old people or the old generation or the new generation, they were not able to bring up with new strategies or techniques to fight for the freedom movement. And this is where we will have to think, what could we do? What could we do? How could we pull India out of this quagmire of poverty and defeatism? Quagmire, troubled situation. We all know when we have no freedom, no liberty, it is slavery. So people, they don't have any earning. They were under poverty. They did not have any job. And they did not know what to do and to who they have to approach to find a new means. Not for a few years of excitement and agony and suspense, but for long generations our people had offered their blood and toil, tears and sweat. It is not for years or decades. The struggle, this freedom struggle was not only for years or decades. It is for centuries together our people were toiling for getting freedom. What were they doing? It is a condition, India's condition. What were they doing? It is, they offered their blood and toil. They struggled, they worked for the freedom. They even lost their life, tears and sweat. They were in an agony. And this process had eaten its way deep into the body and soul of India. So in each and every drop of blood that was running in their body wanted only a free India. Every poisoning every aspect of our life. So this struggle, this condition, this derelict condition, this condition of quagmire, has poisoned every aspect of our life. No prosperity was felt. And in this position, when this gloomy situation was going on, it was like a beam of light, Gandhi appeared. What changes he brought? What alterations he brought? What changes, what alterations, what modifications he brought? Is the lesson, is the essay that explains. And then Gandhi came, Gandhi came to this gloomy situation of India. this gloomy political scene of India, how he was like a powerful current of fresh air that made us stretch ourselves and take deep breaths, like a beam of light that pierced the darkness and removed the scales from our eyes, like a whirlwind that upset many things. But most of all, the working of the people's mind. Beautiful explanation, description on how he came. And then, and that position and that moment, when India was under a disturbed condition of political as well as in a personal life, he came. He came like a powerful current of fresh air that made us stretch ourselves, relax ourselves and take deep breath. Okay, yes. Like a beam of light that pierced the darkness and removed the scales. Remove the scales, scales in eyes, dirt. That removed the scales of our eyes. That means people, he helped people open their eyes, their views. And he was all working on people's mind. He was working with people's mind. He wanted to bring a change in the attitude of people. A psychological revolution, as it is said later in the lesson. A psychological revolution, a change. Revolution, a sudden change. He did not descend from the top. He did not descend from the top. He did not come from the top families or reputed families. He seemed to emerge from the millions of India speaking their language. He did not descend from the top. He is one among the millions of people. So people were able to identify him, understand him as their own leader. He did not have any special qualities or traits, like we have said in the previous lesson, He did not have any special strategies, nobody to support him. He was one among the people. So it was easy for people to understand him. And thus he gave room for renewing the hopes of the people. Now people, they are lost. They are hopeless, it is said. They were hopeless. But now he tried to renew the hope. The initial thing, the first thing what he said is, get off the backs of these peasants and workers, he told us. Who told? Gandhiji told everyone. Get off the backs of these peasants and workers. It is over them you are getting benefited, so don't pressurize them. All of you who live by their exploitation, you demand work from them, it is okay, but don't exploit these workers. You will have to give space for these people who belong to the last rung of the society. So, first thing what you have to do is get off from them. Get rid of the system that produces this poverty and misery. The next thing, get off the system also. System is not working good. Political freedom took a new shape then and acquired a new content. So, thus he initiated a psychological movement. Psychological revolution. Okay, he said, it took a new shape. Much that he said we only partially accepted or sometimes did not accept at all. He confesses the truth. Not all times we have admitted everything that he has advised us. Only very partially we have listened to his preachings. Even then, we were able to achieve is freedom. But all this was secondary. The essence of his teachings was fearlessness and truth, and action allied to these, always keeping the welfare of the masses in view. He didn't think about the higher class of the community. He always kept an eye over the development of the masses in view. Welfare of the masses. He said his teachings was fearlessness and truth, along with that action, putting it into action. The greatest gift for an individual or a nation, so we had been told in our ancient books, was abhaya. Abhaya, no fear, fearlessness. Not merely bodily courage, but the absence of fear from mind. It is not bullying each other, showing Gundaism or putting others down by working on their physique. Strength lies in your mind. The strength of your mind should be stronger. The absence of fear from mind. The dominant impulse in India under British rule was that of fear, pervasive, oppressing, strangling fear, fear of the army, the police, the widespread secret service, fear of the official class, fear of laws meant to suppress and of the prison. Fear of the landlord's agents, fear of the money lender, fear of unemployment and starvation, which were always on the threshold. Fear of unemployment and starvation. It is from there the problem begins. We turn to be a hooligans or antisocial elements when we are under poverty. We are forced to do something else to earn money. So, this unemployment and starvation was at the threshold of every houses of India. And not one or two, the list of fear is like a chain, it goes on. Oppressing, strangling, fear of army, police, widespread secret service, fear of official class, and the fear of landlord's agents. If you are not ready to pay your tax, your land will be taken up. It will be looted. You have seen in so many films, you know. Yes, it was against this all pervading fear that Gandhiji's quiet and determined voice was raised. He did not raise his voice and speak. It was his quiet voice that he raised against all these issues. Be not afraid was his first preach. Be not afraid. Why do you worry? Be not afraid. Was it so simple as all that? Is it possible to be fearless when you are under control of somebody else? Not possible, isn't it? But still, not quite. And yet, fear builds phantoms which are more fearsome than reality itself. So now he started teaching people on how to confront all these real issues instead of creating an images and pictures to a person himself. He said not to be afraid, face the reality. Why do you go away from this reality? One or the other day you will have to face it up. So without fear, face this reality. And when calmly analyzed and its consequences willingly accepted, loses much of its terror. Don't give your own picture to all these fearful incidents. Start facing it. Here I would like to quote Swami Vivekananda's quote. Brave dies only once and the coward dies many times. Okay, so suddenly, as it were, the black pall of fear was lifted from the people's shoulders. Until then they were heavy at their heart and mind and physique. Something was pressurizing them. So Gandhiji tried to remove that fear from their shoulders. They were bending for all these offices, but now with courage they started standing straight. Not wholly, of course, but to an amazing degree he was able to remove this fear from the hearts of these Indians. As fear is close companion to falsehood, so truth follows fearlessness. Very true, isn't it? Fear is a close companion for falsehood. When you start fearing about something, you get into the hands of the lies. But if you can speak your truth very openly, then you no need to worry about fear about anything. Isn't it? Even here you can see, if you speak lies, you will have to remember a lot. When you speak the truth, you have to remember very less. Isn't it? The Indian people did not become much more truthful than they were, nor did they change their essential nature overnight. Overnight, no change is possible. They were not able to change immediately. Nevertheless, a sea change was visible as the need for falsehood and furtive behavior lessened. But the falsehood reduced a lot. Sea change, a drastic change was seen. It was a psychological change, almost as if some expert in psychoanalytic methods had probed deep into the patient's past, found out its origins of his complexes, exposed them to his views, and thus rid him of that burden. He was like a psychologist. What psychologists do? When you go with a problem, they see what had happened in the past. They take up the issue, put it in your friend, they say this is a problem, rectify your problem and leave you back. Very free. The same way, he was like an expert in psychoanalytic methods who probed deep into the patient's past. Who is the patient? Indians. What had happened in the past and how people have overruled us, ruled us. And now, how is it possible to get rid of that burden? There was a psychological reaction also, a feeling of shame at our long submission to the alien rule that had degraded and humiliated us, and a desire to submit no longer, whatever the consequences might be. We did not grow much more truthful perhaps than we had been previously, but Gandhi was always there as a symbol of uncompromising truth to pull us up and shame us into truth. What Nehru says is that what Gandhiji insisted as the first step is fearlessness. If you are to keep yourself away from fear, you will have to be truthful. Even though we were not able to put ourselves 100% to the path of truth, Gandhiji kept himself with no compromise to stick on truth whatever comes on his way. And he also took up situations where he was able to shame us also to the truth. So psychological reaction, a feeling of shame. So he made people understand that how shameful it is to put ourselves in the hands of an alien rule, a foreign rule for a long period. Have we not been degraded? Doesn't it hurt your self-respect? Somebody else comes and rules you, orders you, turned to be authorities. They decide what we people should do in our own place. Is it right? So think about it. He opened the eyes of the Indians. So they started feeling shame about the long submission of us to the alien rule that had degraded, that has destroyed the whole charm of our nation. And now they decided that no longer the submission is going to exist. Right from this moment, we are ready to oppose this foreign rule. And whatever the consequences that comes on our way, we will stick on to the freedom movement with so much of courage and fearlessness. It is really a shame that foreigners come and rule us in our own motherland, in our own nation. So now comes the question, what is truth? You know what is truth? I do not for certain, Jawaharlal Nehru says that, I do not know for certain, and perhaps our truths are relative and absolute truth is beyond us. Absolute truth, the perfect truth is beyond what we are thinking. Different persons may and do take different views of truth. Definitely, isn't it? My truth may be your lie and your lie may be my truth. So different people can interpret truth in different ways, and each individual is powerfully influenced by his own background, training and impulses. This is all. The way, the background, the situation, the environment that we have lived will certainly decide on our life. So truth differs from person to person. So also Gandhi. But truth is, at least for an individual, what he himself feels and knows to be true. At least to a minimum level, to a lower level at least, what he feels and sees is the truth. You can never accept whatever people have said to you as truth. It is not possible. If you have seen to it, then you can admit it. Here even we can mention about a small story that happened in his life. When he was a school-going boy, a school inspector came for an inspection and he had given a dictation test. Okay, so his teacher was also there, and the inspector was also roaming about in the class giving words. After giving so many words, one word was kettle. So this inspector was monitoring about how the children are performing, and his teacher was standing nearby Gandhiji, where Gandhiji was struggling to write the spelling kettle. He did not know the spelling. So his teacher came near and said, "Dear Gandhi, see to the next person and write. Don't go wrong in your spelling. It may affect my career." So many times he said, but Gandhiji was not ready to do that even as a child. That is mentioned by Gandhiji himself in his experiments with truth. My problem was not that I didn't know the spelling of kettle, but a teacher advised me to, or teacher asked me to copy from others. That is what that pained me. So such was truthfulness from the side of Gandhiji. So according to this definition, I do not know of any person who holds the truth as Gandhi does. Jawaharlal Nehru says that I haven't seen a person who sticks on to truthfulness like Gandhiji. He can be never compared with anybody else. That is a dangerous quality in a politician, for he speaks out his mind and even lets the public see its changing faces. So Politician, we know, isn't it? So, what is a very dangerous quality for a politician? It seems it is to stick on to truth. But he very daringly, courageously sticked on to truth, because if he had to stay as a leader for this community, he has to gain the faithfulness or truth or trust of this people. So, you see, it's changing faces. So, when sticking on to the truth, he also made people understand and see changes that came in the process of this freedom movement. Gandhi influenced millions of people in India in varying degrees. That's what in the beginning session we have seen. In India, he was able to influence people. Not only in India, the whole world was ready to admire him. Some changed the whole texture of their lives, others were only partly affected or the effect wore off, and yet not quite, for some part of it could not be wholly shaken off. Different people reacted differently, and each will give his own answer to this question. So, he influenced people in plenty. Some people accepted his principles as a whole, some people partially, and some people did not do, but still they admired Gandhiji. They reacted differently. Okay, his call of action was twofold action. What are the twofold actions? The first one, the actions involved in challenging and resisting foreign rule. That was, of course, the first action should be it should be involved in challenging and resisting foreign rule. We have to fight for our freedom. We have to get freedom from the painful clutches of this British rule. And what is the second action? There was also the action which led us to fight against our own social evils. So, the first one is fighting against the foreign rule, and the second one is fighting against our own social evils. Apart from the fundamental objective of the Congress, here Congress is an association or a meeting gathering the freedom of India and the method of peaceful action. The principal planks of the Congress were national unity, which involved the solution of the minority problems and the raising of the depressed classes and the ending of the curse of untouchability. So, this Congress is meeting. What they decided and planned was they have to solve the minority problems and raising the depressed classes. Three curse, of untouchability. Untouchability is a crime, untouchability is a sin, untouchability is inhumane. Okay, I have seen to this. So, those days untouchability was practiced in India. That was very terrific and terrifying. Many people were really treated as oppressed, and they were actually left in solitude in their life. They were not allowed to be with others. Now, we will get back to the lesson. I think you have taken a short break and you are back to be with this lesson. Realizing that the main props of British rule were fear, prestige, the cooperation of the people, and certain classes whose vested interests were centered in the British rule, Gandhi attacked these foundation props. The main support of Britishers were the fear of Indians. And certain people, few people who supported the Britishers were placed in high office in the government, in the system, and they were promoted. Okay, these practices were literally questioned by Gandhiji. Titles were to be given up, and though the title holders responded to this only in a small measure, the popular respect for these British given titles disappeared. As we have seen in the films, you know, people who supported Britishers were given titles, honors, accolades, respect, recognition, and they were laid in high office. And they were given privilege in all aspects of their life. So they enjoyed freedom. They enjoyed their life maximum when they supported Britishers, when Indians supported Britishers, and all these practices were questioned by Gandhiji. Who are those people to come here and give us a title? So he asked people who received the titles to give it back. Not everyone immediately accepted, but the interest to receive the titles got reduced. And new standards and values were set up, and the pomp and splendor of the viceregal court and the princes suddenly appeared supremely ridiculous. So everything, the superior power or the royalty or of the governance, everything lost the pomp and show, the brilliance and the magnificence. The admiration for all these titles lost a place in the hearts of the people, Indians. They were not so anxious to flaunt their riches, outwardly at least. Many of them adopted simpler ways, and in their dress became almost indistinguishable from the humbler folk. Gandhiji asked people to show no difference among the people. Okay. So Gandhiji did not want to entertain the disparity between the rich and the poor in Indians. So now we get oneness. This is how a unity can be brought out in a whole lot of community like India. India is known for its diversified culture, their dressing, their language, everything. That is what Britishers adopted divide and rule policy. It was very easy to divide us because we did not have one religion or one language or one community. Nothing was in one. Everything was different. So here he wanted to bring oneness in the minds of Indians. Only one thing, that is Indians. He sent us to the villages and the countryside, hummed with the activity of innumerable messengers of the new gospel of action. So what he did is he wanted to make us leaders from the city side to move on to the countryside and to be one among the people of those areas. So he sent us to the countryside, and everywhere in the countryside, in the villages, it was hummed with the activity of innumerable messengers like me, like Nehru. Leaders went to different parts of India to bring everyone under one leadership. They went there to bring awareness or to speak to them on the importance of getting freedom, and they all turned to be the messengers of the new gospel of action principles. The peasant was shaken up and he began to emerge from his shell. The backbone of our Indian society is the villages, the farmers or the peasants, and ordinary people, people who belong to the ordinary class, who are denied with so many privileges that is enjoyed by the rich community. So they were shaken up and they were given strength and courage to come out of the comfort zone or come out of the shell. They did not have the courage to come out and fight against the strong British Empire or rule. So moral strength and courage was given by these messengers of new gospel of action. The effect on us was different but equally far-reaching, for we saw for the first time, as it were, the villager in the intimacy of his mud hut and with a stark shadow of hunger always pursuing him. So this was the first time when we were exposed to the stark reality of India. We experienced very personally how an ordinary Indian was struggling, starving for his single time, a mouthful of food. We learnt our Indian economics more from these visits than from the books and learned discourses. It was very easily understood actually what the Indian economy is. It is not the textual. It was the practical truth that we were analyzing, experiencing. The emotional experience we had already undergone was emphasized and confirmed, and henceforward there could be no going back for us to our old life or our old standards. From then we decided that it is not possible for we people to very personally enjoy the rich life when our brothers, people from our own India, are struggling for a single mouth of food. Okay. What was the idea of India which he was setting out to mold according to his own wishes and ideals? So did Gandhiji have a dream specially for his own India? Did he have a dream on India? Yes, he had a dream. He says, I shall work for an India in which the poorest shall feel that is their own country. They should feel, each and every one of the Indians should feel that it is their own hometown, home place, in whose making they have an effective voice. An India in which there shall be no high class and low class of people, no difference. An India in which all communities shall live in perfect harmony. All these are under certain struggle and pressure right now. Is it the actual India that Gandhiji has dreamt with right now? What we are living in? Is it so? Is it the actual India that he planned and dreamt for? There can be no room in such an India for the curse of untouchability or the curse of intoxicating drinks and drugs. Women will enjoy the same right as men. Is it so? What do you infer from the society that you are exposed to? Gandhiji believed woman is more fitter than men to take bolder action even during his non-violence period. Okay, he believed in women. Actually, does it happen right now? Do we enjoy that freedom? What Gandhiji says about women freedom or women's security or empowerment? See to it. Can a woman stroll free at night in the roads of India? Is it possible? Gandhiji said, India will be free when women feel safe to walk in the streets of India in the midnight. Is it possible to walk in the midnight? Even at daytime, they are not secured. They are not safe. Then how about the night time? So, the previous lines were all the dreams of Gandhiji about India. But the question is, do we really enjoy the free India as Gandhi has dreamt? This is the India of my dreams. Women should also enjoy the same right as men. Actually, Gandhi says it is the India of my dreams. Proud of his Hindu inheritance as he was, he tried to give to Hinduism a kind of universal attire and included all religions within the fold of truth. He was a proud Hindu. He was a proud Hindu, but he equally respected all the religions. He read Bible, he read Quran, he read Gita. He was even a spiritual leader too, who could be taken as a role model. He refused to narrow his cultural inheritance. He had no compromise. He was not ready to compromise with this cultural inheritance. He accepted everything, but he did not give up his cultural heritage. Indian culture, he wrote, is neither Hindu, Islamic nor any other wholly. It is a fusion of all. Fusion of all the religion advocates truth and love. Isn't it? And then why should we stand or fight with each other? Stand against or fight with each other? Again he said, I want the culture of all lands to be blown about my house India, as freely as possible. All the cultures, everything, tradition and culture, everything should be accepted in India. But I refuse to be blown off my feet by any. I refuse to live in other people's houses as an interloper, a beggar or a slave. I am ready to accept all the cultures of the universe, of the globe, the whole world. But I cannot refuse my self-respect. I cannot live in my own house as an interloper, unwelcomed guest, a slave or a beggar. Influenced by the modern thought currents, he never let go of his roots and clung to them tenaciously. He was interested with novel, creative, innovative ideas. He welcomed everything. Innovative ideas were welcomed. But he was not ready to give up his cultural heritage, his roots, ancestral loyalty. He clung to them tenaciously. He holded it very firmly and strongly. Without giving up his own cultural heritage, he was ready to accept the Western traditions and culture. That doesn't harm the Indian tradition and culture. It is not surprising that this astonishingly vital man, full of self-confidence and an unusual kind of power, standing for equality and freedom for each individual. He was fighting for the power of each individual, not for his own personal benefit. Fascinated the mass of India and attracted them like a magnet. So he fascinated the masses like a magnet. He seemed to them to link up the past with the future and to make the dismal present appear just as a stepping stone to that future of life and hope. Dismal glory, make the glorious everything to be appear just as a stepping stone to the future of life. He gave hope to the people who were hopeless. His personality and charisma was just something very attractive that the whole mass of India was ready to accept his leadership. This freedom struggle was led by the simple, ordinary man who was very strong by his mind, not by his physique. Thus, he effected a vast psychological revolution, not only among those who followed his lead, but also among his opponents and those many neutrals who could not make up their mind what to think and what to do. In all the areas, People from all the categories was ready to admire him. Few people admired his leadership, accepting his principles, and some normally will be there to oppose. Even those opponents also thought about his principles, and there were some neutrals, neither positive nor negative. They were not able to make up their mind what to think and what to do. Even those people admired him. Such a great person influenced each and every Indian of this community and turned to be a leader. And this is what the opinion of Jawaharlal Nehru about Gandhiji. Okay, he says he was a symbol of hope and truth for the people of India. As we said earlier, people were totally disappointed. And all these disappointed people were brought together under the shelter or under the leadership of Gandhiji, who welcomed and admired new ventures and new ideas from people, gave space for them to speak. He did not have anything to hide from them. His life was his message, and gave a psychological and powerful support and hope to these people. Even Britishers admired Gandhiji as a leader, and under his leadership, India won its freedom struggle. Okay, so we will wind up this class, and until I meet you in the next class, stay safe and stay happy. Bye.